Richard Blackstone pressed his face against the cold glass of his office window on the 40th floor. Down below, the city looked like a toy model with tiny cars and people moving around like ants. His phone had been ringing all morning with, "Congratulations." His company had just made $10 million from one deal. The newspapers would write about him again. The business magazines would put his picture on their covers again. But none of this made him happy today. The real problem was waiting for him at home. His 12-year-old daughter Emma sat alone in their big house playing piano in the music room. She had been born blind, which meant she could not see anything at all. But Emma was special in other ways. She could play piano better than most adults. She could hear sounds that other people missed. She was smart and funny, but Richard did not know how to talk to her. 3 years ago, his wife Lisa had packed her bags and left them. She said she could not handle having a blind child and a husband who was never home. "You care more about your business than your family," she had screamed at him before walking out the door. Richard knew she was right, but he did not know how to change. Making money was the only thing he was good at. Every morning, Richard would eat breakfast alone while Emma ate in her room with her nanny, Mrs. Patterson. Mrs. Patterson was a nice old lady who had worked with special children for many years. She was kind to Emma, but she was paid to be there. Richard wanted to spend time with his daughter, but every conversation felt wrong and uncomfortable. "Good morning, Emma," he would say when he saw her. "Good morning, Daddy," she would answer, politely. Then they would both stand there in silence, not knowing what to say next. Richard would look at her beautiful face and feel sad that she could not see his smile. Emma would turn her head toward his voice but seem far away, like she was thinking about something else. The house they lived in was huge and expensive. It had 12 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a swimming pool, and a garden. Emma knew every corner of the house by touching the walls and counting her steps. She could walk from her bedroom to the kitchen without help. She could find her favorite books and her piano without bumping into anything. But the house felt cold and empty, even with all the expensive furniture and beautiful paintings that Emma could never see. Richard had bought Emma everything he thought she might need. Her room had the most expensive piano money could buy. She had shelves full of books that talked to her through special machines. She had every toy and game made for blind children. Her clothes came from the most expensive stores in the city. But Emma rarely smiled, and she never laughed the way other children did. At night, Richard would come home from work very late. He would walk quietly to Emma's room and look through the door. Most nights she would be sitting by her window, even though she could not see outside. She would have her head turned toward the sounds coming from the park across the street. In the park, other children played and laughed together. Emma could hear their voices, and Richard could see the sad look on her face as she listened. "Why don't you go play in the park?" Richard had asked her once. "Mrs. Patterson says it's not safe." "For me," Emma had answered. "She says I might get hurt because I can't see where I'm going." Richard knew Mrs. Patterson was just being careful, but he also knew Emma was lonely. He wanted to take her to the park himself, but he was always too busy with work. He told himself that paying for the best nanny was better than trying to help Emma himself. He was afraid he would do something wrong and make her life harder. Emma spent most of her days alone, even when Mrs. Patterson was there. She would play piano for hours, creating beautiful music that filled the empty house. Sometimes she would listen to her talking books or practice walking around the house with her white cane. But Richard could see that she was not happy. She moved around the house like a ghost, quiet and alone. The worst part was that Richard did not know how to make things better. He had read every book about raising blind children. He had talked to doctors and teachers and other parents. Everyone gave him advice, but nothing seemed to work. Emma was polite to him, but she did not seem to love him the way daughters should, love their fathers. At work, Richard was confident and strong. He could make important decisions that affected thousands of people. He could solve problems that other business people found impossible. But at home, he felt helpless and stupid. He did not know how to hug his daughter without making her uncomfortable. He did not know what games to play with her. He did not know how to make her laugh. Richard had tried to hire people to help Emma make friends, He paid for special classes where she could meet other blind children. He arranged for music teachers to come to the house. He even hired a woman to take Emma to fun places around the city. But Emma always came home quiet and sad. She would go straight to her room and close the door. "Did you have fun today?" Richard would ask. "Yes, Daddy," Emma would say, but her voice sounded flat and tired. Richard knew she was just being polite. He could tell she had not really enjoyed herself, but he did not know what else to do. He thought that spending money on Emma's problems would fix them, just like he fixed problems at work by spending money on them. The house had become like a beautiful prison for both of them. Richard was trapped by his guilt and his fear of doing the wrong thing. Emma was trapped by everyone's need to protect her from the world. They lived in the same house, but they felt like strangers to each other. Every night, Richard would lie in his bed and think about his failures as a father. He had all the money in the world, but he could not buy the one thing Emma needed most: a father who knew how to love her properly. He could not buy her sight, and he could not buy himself the knowledge of how to connect with his special daughter. Tomorrow would be another day of the same routine. Richard would go to work and make more money. Emma would stay home and play, piano alone. Mrs. Patterson would take care of Emma's basic needs but could not fill the empty space in her heart. And Richard would come home late, look at his daughter through her bedroom door and feel like the richest man in the world who had nothing that really mattered. Neither Richard nor Emma knew that their lives were about to change forever. In just a few days, a simple construction project would bring someone into their world who would show them both what they had been missing. Someone who would teach Richard how to be a real father and show Emma that she was not as alone in the world as she thought. 2 weeks after his latest business deal, Richard stood in his backyard looking at the empty space behind his mansion. The yard was big but boring. It had some grass, a few old trees, and nothing else. Richard had an idea that maybe, just maybe, if he built something beautiful back here, Emma might want to come outside more often. Maybe she would be happier if she had a special place to explore safely. He called the best construction company in the city. Morrison Construction had built gardens for other rich people, and their work always looked perfect in magazines. Richard wanted the best for Emma, even if he did not know how to give her what she really needed: his time and attention. On Monday morning at 7 o'clock, a big truck pulled up in front of the house. Emma was eating breakfast in the kitchen when she heard the loud engine and the sound of men talking outside. She had never heard so much noise in their quiet neighborhood. "What's happening, Mrs. Patterson?" Emma asked, turning her head toward the window. "Your father hired some men to build a garden in the backyard," Mrs. Patterson explained while putting Emma's toast on her plate. "They'll be working here for a few weeks." Emma's face lit up with curiosity. For months, nothing new or exciting had happened in her world. The same people came and went. The same sounds filled her days. But now there were new voices, new sounds, and new people right outside her house. The construction crew had 5 men, but their leader was a tall, black man named Marcus Williams. Marcus was 43 years old and had been working construction since he was 18. His hands were rough from years of hard work, but his voice was gentle and kind. He had started as a helper, carrying tools and cleaning up after other workers. Now he ran his own small crew and took pride in building beautiful things. Richard met Marcus at the front door and walked him to the backyard. Richard talked fast about what he wanted: a garden with special paths for Emma to walk on, flowers that smelled good, and maybe a fountain she could hear. He pulled out expensive drawings that an architect had made. "I want the best materials," Richard said, looking at his expensive watch. "Money is not a problem. Just make it perfect for my daughter. She's blind, so everything needs to be safe." Marcus looked at the drawings and listened carefully. He could tell that Richard loved his daughter but seemed nervous and unsure about how to help her. Marcus had seen this before with other rich parents who tried to buy happiness for their children. "Don't worry, Mr. Blackstone," Marcus said in his calm voice. "We'll build something special for her, something she can enjoy and feel safe in." Richard nodded quickly and then hurried off to his car. He had 3 important meetings that day and could not be late. As he drove away, he felt good about starting this project, but he also felt the familiar guilt of leaving Emma's care to other people. Marcus and his crew began working right away. They measured the yard, marked where everything would go, and started digging. The sounds of shovels hitting dirt, hammers banging, and men calling to each other filled the quiet morning air. Emma finished her breakfast and asked Mrs. Patterson if she could sit on the back porch. Mrs. Patterson was not sure. This was a good idea. The construction site might be dangerous, and she was supposed to keep Emma safe. But Emma begged and promised to stay on the porch far from the work area. "Please, Mrs. Patterson," Emma said. "I just want to listen. I won't go near them, I promise." Mrs. Patterson finally agreed, but she warned Emma to stay exactly where she was and not move from the porch chair. Emma promised and sat down in her favorite spot, turning her face toward the sounds of work. For the first time in months, Emma felt excited about something. The construction sounds were like music to her ears. She could tell the difference between each tool and each worker's voice. One man had a deep laugh. Another one whistled while he worked. But the voice that caught her attention most was Marcus's voice. He spoke to his workers with respect and kindness, never yelling or getting angry when someone made a mistake. Emma heard Marcus helping a younger worker who was struggling with something heavy. "Take your time, Tommy," Marcus said patiently. "It's better to do it right than to do it fast. Here, let me show you a better way to hold that." Emma smiled as she listened. She was used to hearing people talk about her like she was not there, or talk to her like she was much younger than 12. But Marcus talked to his workers like they were important, and Emma liked that. On Tuesday, Emma asked to sit outside again. This time she brought a book that read to her through headphones, but she found herself listening to the construction sounds instead of her story. She began to learn each worker's voice and what job each person was doing. Marcus noticed the little girl sitting quietly on the porch. He saw how she turned her head to follow different sounds and realized she must be the blind daughter Mr. Blackstone had mentioned. Marcus had a daughter too, and he understood how much parents worry about keeping their children safe and happy. During his lunch break on Wednesday, Marcus walked over to the porch. He did not want to scare Emma, so he spoke softly, from a few feet away. "Hello there," he said in his gentle voice. "I'm Marcus. I'm the one in charge of building your new garden." Emma turned toward his voice and smiled shyly. "Hi, I'm Emma. I've been listening to you work. It sounds like you're building something really big." "We are," Marcus said, sitting down on the porch steps but keeping some distance so Emma would not feel crowded. "Would you like me to tell you what we're doing?" Emma's face brightened with excitement. "Yes, please. I've been trying to figure it out by listening, but I can't tell what everything is." Marcus began to describe the garden they were building. He used simple words but painted clear pictures with his descriptions. He told Emma about the curved pathways they were laying with smooth stones that would be easy for her to feel with, her feet or her cane. He described the raised flower beds that would be at the perfect height for her to touch and smell the flowers safely. "We're also building a fountain right in the center," Marcus explained. "It will make a gentle sound like rain, so you'll always know where the middle of the garden is even if you get turned around." Emma listened with complete attention. For the first time since the project started, someone was talking to her about it instead of just talking about her. Marcus did not treat her like she was fragile or stupid. He talked to her like she was a real person who could understand and appreciate what they were building. "My daughter Sarah plays piano like you do," Marcus mentioned. "I hear you practicing sometimes when we're working. You're really good." Emma blushed with pride. Not many people understood her music or took time to really listen to it. "Thank you," she said. "How old is Sarah?" "She's 15 and she's getting ready for college," Marcus said with obvious pride in his voice. "She works hard at school and practices piano every day, just like you." Mrs. Patterson watched from the kitchen window, surprised to see Emma talking so easily with the construction worker. Emma usually took a long time to warm up to new people, but she seemed comfortable with Marcus right away. As the days went by, Emma looked forward to these lunch break conversations more than anything else in her routine. Marcus would update her on their progress, and Emma would ask questions about construction and tell Marcus about her music. For the first time in years, Emma had found someone who treated her like a normal kid, who just happened to be blind, instead of a blind kid who needed special treatment for everything. Neither Emma nor Marcus knew that these simple conversations were about to change not just their lives, but the life of one very wealthy, very lonely father who was about to learn what real connection looked like. By the second week of construction, Emma was waking up every morning with excitement. For the first time in years, she had something to look forward to. She would eat her breakfast quickly and ask Mrs. Patterson if she could go sit on the porch to listen to the work beginning. Marcus and his crew always arrived at exactly 7:30 in the morning. Emma learned to recognize the sound of their truck pulling up and the different footsteps of each worker as they walked around to the backyard. But the sound she waited for most was Marcus's voice calling out, "Good morning," to his team. "Good morning, Emma," Marcus would say when he saw her on the porch. "Ready to hear about today's progress?" Emma would smile and nod eagerly. Marcus had started giving her a daily report about what they planned to do that day. He would describe which section of the garden they were working on and what new things she might hear them building. Marcus was different from any adult Emma had ever met. He never talked down to her or used that special sweet voice that most adults used with blind children. He talked to her like she was smart and important. He asked for her opinions about things and actually listened to her answers. "We're thinking about putting some wind chimes near the fountain," Marcus told her one morning. "What kind of sound do you think would be nice?" Emma thought carefully. "Maybe something soft and musical, not too loud. Something that sounds happy, but peaceful." Marcus nodded and wrote down her suggestion in his small notebook. "That's a great idea. We'll look for something just like that." Emma felt proud that her opinion mattered to someone. At home, most decisions about her life were made by her father or Mrs. Patterson or her doctors. But Marcus treated her like her ideas were valuable. During the lunch breaks, Marcus would sit on the porch steps and tell Emma stories about his daughter Sarah. Emma learned that Marcus was raising Sarah by himself, just like Richard was raising Emma alone. But Marcus talked about Sarah with such love and pride that Emma felt a little jealous. "Sarah got the highest grade in her math class last week," Marcus said one day, unwrapping his simple sandwich. "She's applying for a scholarship to study music in college. She wants to be a music teacher someday." "That sounds wonderful," Emma said. "Does she like playing piano as much as I do?" "She loves it, but she says she's not as talented as you are," Marcus replied. "I played her one of your songs on my phone when you were practicing yesterday. She was really impressed." Emma's cheeks turned red with happiness. She had never met Sarah, but knowing that another teenager liked her music made her feel less alone in the world. As the days passed, Emma began to feel more comfortable with Marcus. She started asking him personal questions, something she rarely did with adults. "Marcus, do you ever feel sad that Sarah doesn't have a mother?" Emma asked one day. Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to answer honestly. "Sometimes, I do feel sad about that," he said finally. "But Sarah and I take care of each other. We're a team. Do you feel sad that you don't have a mother around?" Emma nodded. "Sometimes. And sometimes I feel sad that my father doesn't know how to talk to me. He tries to be nice, but he always seems uncomfortable, like he's afraid he'll say the wrong thing." Marcus understood exactly what Emma meant. He had seen many parents who felt helpless when their children had special needs. "Your father loves you very much," Marcus said gently. "Sometimes parents show love in different ways. Your father works hard to give you everything you need." "But I don't need expensive things," Emma said quietly. "I just want someone to talk to me like you do, like I'm a normal person." This conversation made Marcus think about his own relationship with Sarah. Even though money was always tight, he and Sarah talked about everything. They shared their problems and their dreams. They laughed together and sometimes cried together. Marcus realized that Emma was missing this kind of connection with her father. The breakthrough moment came during the third week when Marcus was working alone on the stone pathway. His crew was at another job site, and Marcus was carefully placing each stone in a special pattern. Emma asked Mrs. Patterson if she could go closer to hear what Marcus was doing. Mrs. Patterson was nervous about letting Emma leave the porch, but Emma begged and promised to be very careful. Finally, Mrs. Patterson agreed to walk with Emma to where Marcus was working. "Hello, Emma," Marcus said when he heard their footsteps. "Perfect timing. I'm working on the part of the path that leads to your favorite listening spot by the fountain." "Can I touch the stones?" Emma asked shyly. "I want to understand what you're building." Marcus looked at Mrs. Patterson, who nodded nervously. "Of course," Marcus said, "but let me guide your hands so you don't get hurt." Marcus gently took Emma's hands and placed them on the smooth stones. He showed her how each stone was shaped differently and how they fit together like pieces of a puzzle. Emma's face filled with wonder as her fingers explored the textures and patterns. "This is amazing," Emma whispered. "I can feel how beautiful it is." For the next hour, Marcus patiently guided Emma's hands over different parts of the garden. He showed her the raised flower beds, the smooth edges of the fountain, and the different materials they were using. Emma asked question after question, and Marcus answered each one with patience and detail. Mrs. Patterson watched in amazement. She had never seen Emma so engaged and happy. The child was learning and exploring in a way that Mrs. Patterson had never been able to encourage. Marcus had a gift for helping Emma discover the world through her other senses. "Marcus," Emma said, as they finished exploring, "thank you for letting me really see what you're building. No one has ever taken time to help me understand something like this before." Marcus felt his heart warm. "Emma, you're one of the smartest kids I've ever met. You understand things that most people miss. Don't let anyone make you feel like you can't do something just because you can't see it." That evening, Emma was more talkative at dinner than she had been in months. She told Mrs. Patterson all about the garden and how Marcus had explained everything to her. She described the stones and the fountain with such excitement that Mrs. Patterson could picture every detail. "He treats me like I'm smart," Emma said happily. "He doesn't act like I'm going to break if I touch something. He lets me explore and learn things for myself." Mrs. Patterson realized that Emma had found something precious, an adult who believed in her abilities instead of focusing on her disability. Marcus was teaching Emma that being blind didn't mean she had to live in a small, protected world. She could explore and discover and be independent if people would just give her the chance. Neither Emma nor Mrs. Patterson knew that Richard had been watching from his office window that afternoon. He had seen his daughter laughing and learning with the construction worker, and he had felt both grateful and jealous. Marcus was giving Emma something that Richard didn't know how to give: confidence, respect, and genuine friendship. The next day would bring an even more important moment, one that would change everything for all three of them forever. Thursday morning started like any other day, but the weather was much hotter than usual. The sun was burning bright in the sky, and there was no wind to make the air cooler. Marcus was working alone in the backyard because his crew had gone to finish another job across town. He was determined to complete the stone pathway around the fountain before the weekend. Emma sat on the back porch, listening to Marcus work. She could hear him breathing harder than usual because of the heat. The sound of his tools hitting the stone seemed slower and more tired than before. Emma felt worried about him working so hard in such hot weather. "Marcus, are you okay?" Emma called out from the porch. "You sound tired." Marcus looked up from his work and wiped sweat from his face with his shirt sleeve. "I'm fine, Emma. Just trying to finish this section today. How are you doing over there?" "I'm okay, but I'm getting hungry," Emma replied. "What time is it?" Marcus pulled out his old phone and checked the time. His eyes went wide with surprise. "Oh my goodness, Emma, it's already 2 o'clock in the afternoon. No wonder you're hungry. No wonder I'm so tired." Emma was shocked. Mrs. Patterson had gone to the grocery store and the bank that morning, and she should have been back by now. Emma usually ate lunch at 12:30 every day. She never missed meals, and she never went this long without eating. "Mrs. Patterson must be stuck in traffic or something," Emma said, trying not to sound worried. "She'll be back soon." But Marcus could hear the hunger and concern in Emma's voice. He looked at his own lunch sitting in the small cooler he brought to work every day. He had packed 2 simple peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, an apple, and a bottle of water. It was not fancy food, but it was all he had brought for the entire day. Marcus was between paychecks this week. Sarah needed new school books, and he had spent most of his grocery money helping her. He had been planning to make these 2 sandwiches last him through the long afternoon of hard physical work. But looking at Emma sitting alone on the porch, hungry and waiting for someone to take care of her, Marcus did not hesitate for even 1 second. "Emma," Marcus called out, walking toward the porch with his lunch cooler. "I have some sandwiches here. You must be starving, and I can't let you sit there hungry." Emma shook her head quickly. "Oh no, Marcus, I can't take your lunch. That's your food for work. I'll wait for Mrs. Patterson." Marcus sat down on the porch steps next to Emma and opened his cooler. "My mama always told me that food tastes better when it's shared with good company. Besides, I brought extra today." This was not true. Marcus had not brought extra food, but he could not bear the thought of a child going hungry when he had something to share. He pulled out both sandwiches and handed them to Emma. "Here, take both of these. I already ate earlier." Marcus lied gently. Emma could smell the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They smelled simple and homemade, so different from the expensive meal she usually ate. But she was very hungry, and Marcus was being so kind. "Are you sure?" Emma asked one more time. "I'm absolutely sure," Marcus said with a warm smile in his voice. "Now eat up before you faint from hunger." Emma bit into the first sandwich and something unexpected happened. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. The sandwich was simple, just peanut butter and jelly on regular bread. It was not gourmet food like the meals her father's cook prepared, but it tasted like love and kindness. It tasted like someone truly cared about her. "This is delicious," Emma said softly, wiping tears from her eyes. "Thank you so much, Marcus." Marcus sat beside her on the porch steps, pretending to eat his own food but actually just drinking water from his bottle. He listened as Emma told him about her dreams of becoming a professional piano player someday. She talked about the music she heard in her head and how she wished she could share it with more people. "Your father probably worries about you performing in public," Marcus said gently. "Parents sometimes try to protect their children too much because they love them." Emma nodded sadly. "He thinks I'm too fragile for the real world. He thinks people will hurt me or take advantage of me because I can't see. But Marcus, you don't treat me like I'm fragile. You treat me like I'm strong." "That's because you are strong, Emma," Marcus replied. "You're one of the strongest people I know. Being blind doesn't make you weak. It makes you special in ways that most people can't understand." As they talked and shared the simple meal, Emma felt happier than she had felt in years. Marcus told her stories about Sarah's piano recitals and how proud he was when Sarah performed for her school. He talked about working extra jobs to save money for Sarah's college education and how they dreamed together about her future. "Sarah is lucky to have a father like you," Emma said quietly. "You really listen to her and believe in her dreams." Marcus felt his heart break a little for this sweet girl who just wanted her father to connect with her the way he connected with Sarah. What neither Emma nor Marcus knew was that Richard had left his office early that day. He had been feeling guilty all week about never seeing the garden progress himself. He had decided to come home and check on the construction work. Richard walked through his house and headed toward the back door to find the construction worker and see how the project was going. But as he reached the door, he stopped completely still. Through the glass, he could see his daughter sitting on the porch steps with the black construction worker, sharing a simple lunch and talking like old friends. Emma was laughing. Actually laughing out loud, something Richard had not heard her do in months. Her face was bright with happiness, and she was talking quickly and excitedly about something. The construction worker was listening to every word she said, nodding, and asking questions like her conversation was the most important thing in the world. Richard stood frozen, watching this scene. His daughter looked more alive and joyful than he had seen her since her mother left. She was eating a simple sandwich like it was the best meal she had ever tasted. She was talking to this stranger with more openness than she had ever shown with her own father. Instead of feeling angry or suspicious, Richard felt overwhelmed with two powerful emotions. First, he felt grateful. This man had given his daughter something precious, genuine friendship and respect. Second, he felt ashamed. A construction worker who barely knew Emma had figured out how to connect with her in ways that Richard, with all his money and resources, had completely failed to do. Richard watched as Marcus listened patiently to Emma's stories, responded to her questions seriously, and treated her like she was important and valuable. This was exactly what Emma had been missing in her life. This was what Richard had been trying to buy for her but never knew how to give her himself. At that moment, Richard realized that he had been completely wrong about what his daughter needed. She did not need more expensive things or more protection from the world. She needed someone to believe in her, to treat her like she was capable and strong, and to share simple moments of real human connection. Tomorrow, Richard would make a decision that would change all their lives forever. Richard stood behind the glass door for 10 minutes, watching his daughter and Marcus talk together like they had been friends for years. He saw Emma finish both sandwiches while telling Marcus about her favorite piano pieces. He watched Marcus listen with complete attention, asking questions that made Emma's face light up with excitement. Finally, Richard took a deep breath and opened the door. He walked slowly toward the porch, his heart beating fast with nervousness. Marcus saw him first and immediately stood up, worry crossing his face. He thought he might be in trouble for spending so much time talking with Emma instead of working. "Mr. Blackstone," Marcus said quickly. "I was just taking a lunch break and making sure Emma was okay. Mrs. Patterson stepped out and Emma was hungry, so Please don't apologize," Richard said gently, raising his hand to stop Marcus from explaining. "I saw what happened. Thank you for taking care of her." Emma turned her face toward her father's voice, surprised to hear him home so early. "Daddy, what are you doing here? Is everything okay?" Richard sat down on the porch steps next to his daughter, something he had never done before. Usually, when he talked to Emma, they stood in doorways or sat across from each other at the big dining table. But today, he wanted to be close to her. "Everything is fine, sweetheart," Richard said softly. "I came home early to see how the garden is coming along. Marcus, would you sit back down? I'd like to talk to both of you." Marcus sat down carefully, still not sure what Mr. Blackstone was thinking. Richard looked at his daughter, really looked at her, and saw something he had missed for years. Emma looked confident and happy. Her shoulders were straight, and she was smiling naturally. She looked like a normal, healthy 12-year-old girl instead of the sad, lonely child he usually saw at home. "Emma," Richard said, "tell me about the garden. What has Marcus been building for you?" For the next 30 minutes, Emma talked more to her father than she had talked to him in the past 6 months combined. She described every detail of the garden project with excitement and knowledge. She explained how the stone pathways would help her walk safely, how the fountain would help her find her way around, and how the flowers were chosen for their different smells. Richard listened in amazement. Emma knew so much about the construction project. She understood the planning and the purpose behind every decision. She talked about it like she had been part of the team building it, not just someone watching from far away. "Marcus taught me how to feel the different textures of the stones," Emma explained. "And he asked for my opinion about where to put things. He made me feel like I was helping to build something important." Richard looked at Marcus with new respect. This man had done something that Richard had been trying to do for years. Marcus had made Emma feel valuable and included. He had treated her like her thoughts and ideas mattered. "Marcus," Richard said, "can I ask you something personal? How do you talk to your daughter Sarah?" "Emma tells me Sarah is in high school." Marcus smiled when he heard Sarah's name. "Sarah and I talk about everything, Mr. Blackstone. We talk about her dreams, her worries, her school, her music. We make decisions together about important things. I ask for her opinions because I respect her mind." Richard felt a pain in his chest as he realized what he had been doing wrong. He had been trying to protect Emma from everything instead of preparing her to handle anything. He had been making decisions for her instead of with her. He had been treating her like a problem to solve instead of a person to know and love. "Emma, Richard said, turning to his daughter. I owe you an apology. I've been so worried about keeping you safe that I forgot to help you grow strong. I've been so busy trying to give you things that I forgot to give you myself. Emma's eyes filled with tears. These were the words she had been waiting to hear for years. Daddy, I don't need you to protect me from everything. I need you to believe in me. I need you to talk to me like Marcus does, like I'm smart and capable. Richard felt tears in his own eyes. You are smart and capable, Emma. You're the smartest, most talented person I know. I've just been afraid that I would say the wrong thing or do something that would hurt you. Marcus watched this father and daughter finally connect with each other, and he felt proud to have played a small part in bringing them together. But he also felt worried about his own future. The construction project was almost finished, and soon he would have to leave and find another job. That evening, after Marcus had gone home, Richard and Emma had the longest conversation they had ever shared. Emma told her father about feeling lonely and left out. She explained that she didn't want to be treated like she was made of glass. Richard told Emma about feeling scared and helpless as a father. He admitted that he had been hiding behind work because he didn't know how to help her. From now on, Richard promised, we're going to make decisions together. We're going to talk about your dreams and figure out how to make them come true. I want to know everything about your music and your thoughts and your feelings. The next morning, Richard made a phone call that would change everything. He called Marcus and asked him to come to the house for an important meeting. When Marcus arrived, Richard led him to his home office. Marcus, Richard began, you've given my daughter something I couldn't give her myself. You've shown her that she's strong and valuable. You've treated her with respect and kindness. I want to offer you something. Richard explained that his company was starting a new division focused on building accessible spaces for people with disabilities. He wanted Marcus to lead this new department. The job would pay 3 times what Marcus made now. It would provide health insurance for Marcus and Sarah. It would pay for Sarah's college education completely. But most importantly, Richard continued, I want you to be part of Emma's life. I want you to teach me how to be the father she deserves. I want Emma to have you as a mentor and friend. Marcus was speechless. This opportunity would change his and Sarah's lives forever. But more than that, he had grown to love Emma like she was his own daughter. The chance to continue being part of her life was worth more than any amount of money. 6 months later, the backyard garden was finished and beautiful. Emma could walk every path safely and independently. She knew where every flower bed was located and could find her way to the fountain from anywhere in the garden. But more importantly, Emma was a different child. She was confident, happy, and full of dreams for her future. Richard had learned to talk to his daughter like Marcus had taught him. They planned Emma's first public piano performance together. Richard no longer tried to protect Emma from the world. Instead, he helped her prepare to conquer it. Marcus's construction company grew into one of the most successful accessibility contractors in the city. Sarah received a full scholarship to study music education, and she often came to the house to practice piano with Emma. The 2 girls became like sisters. But the most important change was in Richard's heart. He learned that real wealth was not measured in money but in relationships. He discovered that the most valuable thing he could give his daughter was not expensive gifts, but his time, attention, and belief in her abilities. A simple peanut butter and jelly sandwich shared between a blind girl and a kind construction worker had opened a millionaire's eyes to what really mattered in life. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest changes in the world.